monotheism, and then we'll survey the various attempts at monotheism, touching on Jewish, Christian, and Islamic forms of it. Finally, he'll ask the question, is there real monotheism, and where? Otto Rand was born in Slovakia in 1933. As a Jewish boy of 10 to 13, he was in hiding from the Nazis and survived due to dedicated help and sacrifice from many Slovak peasants. After the war, he emigrated to Israel, where he completed his BA at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem in biblical history and literature. He later studied ancient Near Eastern studies at the University of Chicago, partly with theologian Paul Tillich, and completed his MA in Near Eastern studies at the University of Toronto. There he also earned his PhD in 1968, and in 1969 received a Master's of Education degree. He settled in Toronto until his move to Ajijic in 2002. He is presently scholar in residence at the Jewish congregation of Ajijic and provides frequent lectures on Judaism and other religions over the winter months. Let's welcome Otto Rand.
Evolution of Monotheism, but really evaluation should be evaluation of monotheism. And I know that not everybody will be happy with what I am saying, but that's the nature of science. You check something, evaluate something, then you come to conclusions which are not the popular conclusions. I'm not, here is the, here are the three principles according to which I judge whether religion is monotheistic or not. So first of all, definition that you understand that this term is belief in one God. This would mean elimination of all other forces, positive or negative, assumed to be involved in the creation and operation of the universe. That's number one. However, it will also eliminate the concept of a God concerned only with one or several individuals, one or several nations, and preferring specific cults and prayers, hailing or describing God over others. So that's the second one. The third requirement of true monotheism is the conduct of its believers, honoring and loving humanity, because the purpose of creation was the preservation of humanity by mutual respect, if not love. This means the propagation of the faith needs to be done by respectful persuasion and tolerance towards the other, irrespective of color and race. My motto and guiding interpretation are the words of Talmudic sages interpreting, why did God create only one person? And the answer is, all people have the same ancestor, so that no one later could claim superiority over others. Monotheism further implies belief in propagation of the faith to be done only by persuasion and peaceful means. Any forcing of the belief on others would be entirely anti-monotheistic. My motto is, thou shalt love your proxy like yourself. And I think that's the essence of religion. Now, I will examine the three Abrahamic religions according to these principles and see whether they conform to that. So I want to add also that by no means do I reject scientific advances But none of them proved to me, however, that there is not a supernatural force, mostly known as God, that stands behind the creation and evolution and is the primary cause. That's my belief. It doesn't have to be the belief of everybody. It is believed by all three Abrahamic monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, that it was a Jew named Abraham, or Abraham later, who discovered the idea of monotheism. Well, in fact, Abraham was not a Jew. He was an Aramean, whose father and the entire family were polytheists, although they would not know what this expression means. That was much later coined. Unfortunately, it's only the Hebrew Bible or the Old Testament that is our source for the life of Abraham. There are later commentaries and interpretation, but they cannot be considered authoritative since they are all based on the same primary source. The Bible tells us that Abraham's father worshipped several gods. His main god seemed to be Sin, the god of moon, or Yerah in Aramaic, from which was derived his name Terah. But he manufactured or sold handmade idols of every kind. That much we learn from Jewish sources. The Bible doesn't teach us much about Abraham's childhood, except for telling us that at a certain age, he and his family moved from Ur, where he was born, where the god of moon was worshipped, into a northern Mesopotamian town called Haran, where the dominant god was also Sin, the god of moon. We do not know where the site of Abraham's Ur was. There are several theories about it. Although there was a large metropolis at that time called Ur in southern Mesopotamia, it was inhabited mostly by Sumerians who founded the city and ruled it, and Semitic tribes were settled around it in shekels. But in the 18th century BC, it was conquered by Semitic Akkadians, who replaced the cult of moon by the cult of sun, Shamash. It is possible that this upheaval caused the migration of Abraham's family to Haran. The father Terah intended to continue the journey into the land of Canaan. That's very important, because we always say, why did he go to Canaan? Well, his father intended to go there, but he died in Haran as well as one of his sons. It befell on Abraham to complete his journey. Here comes, however, the element of Abraham's discovery of one God. I'm not calling it monotheism because it does not fulfill my definition of a universal God. Still, by careful observation of nature, because it seems that in Haran, Abraham was primarily a shepherd of his numerous family flocks of sheep. And as a shepherd, he had the opportunity and the time to observe nature closely. He came to the logical conclusion that none of the celestial bodies, nor natural forces, could be independent divinities, since one replaced or eliminated the other. There had to be a supreme power that oversaw all of heaven and earth. Abraham may not have been aware of the enormity of his discovery. He considered the logical conclusion from his observation of nature. We further know from the Bible that he married Sarai, the daughter of his deceased brother, and raised his younger son Lot, and probably continues his way of life, while likely dreaming of a day when he would be able to complete his part of his life journey to the land of Canaan. According to the Bible, he was 75 years old when he had a vision of the supernatural power that he named El, which was the name of many Semitic gods, that he was commanded to migrate to a land that he will be shown. We don't know why Abraham emigrated to the land of Canaan. The Bible tells us that God's message was, go to the land I will show you. We don't know whether Abraham got a more specific message later, but we know it was his intent of his father to migrate there. For a keeper of sheep and cattle, the location made sense. The land was not heavily populated, unlike Mesopotamia. There was plenty of space for herding and even planting wheat, which his son has done. It certainly people of the land were idol worshippers ruled by local chieftains, yet Abraham got along with them very well. We have no evidence, except from later rabbinical sources, that he tried to convert anyone to his belief. During the long period of sojourn in Canaan, there were at least 2 times that for reason of drought he had to leave temporarily. Once to Egypt, once to an early Philistine city. He may have betrayed his wife by introducing her as his sister, because she was, according to the Bible, a beautiful woman, even at her advanced age, but he did not try to change the religion of the inhabitants there. According to the Bible, the real identity of Sarai was miraculously revealed to the rulers of these kingdoms, and they even recognized Abraham's God as a powerful one. But polytheism, unlike monotheism, was a liberal religion, and it accepted worship of other gods by other nations or individuals. It's only monotheism that says that there is only one way. Polytheism did not think that way. Abraham had 2 more revelations by God. In one, he was promised to have as many descendants as stars in the sky, even though at the advanced age of 70 and something, he did not have a single son. In the other revelation, born by 3 messengers of God, sometimes erroneously translated as angels, when he was 99 years old, he was promised a son, and was named Abraham, his old name including the Hebrew letter H, a hint of the name of God. His wife's name was also changed to Sarah, including the same H. The birth of a son called Isaac, Yitzchak in Hebrew, occurred a year later, when Abraham was 100 years old and Sarah 90. But you know these things from the Old Testament. Once in his life, Abraham had another chieftain of the city, Salem, later Jerusalem, who believed in the supreme God, El Elyon. It is hard to determine from the sketchy narrative whether he believed in the same God as Abraham, but there was some hint to it. Abraham made an offering to him of 10% of the booty he attained in pursuit and defeat of his enemies, who kidnapped his nephew Lot. There was no further meeting recorded between the 2, but still it is possible Abraham was not the only monotheist in the area. Was Abraham a real monotheist? In the sense that he believed in one single God, he definitely was. And although he recognized God as the creator and maintainer of the universe, Abraham saw him, God, primarily as his personal God. Abraham obviously tolerated other gods, since he sent the head of his household now to find a wife for his son in Haran, his ancestral home, where his brother and his children lived worshipping idols. There is no doubt that Rebekah, the chosen wife of Isaac, was raised as an idol worshipper. We may assume that as Isaac's spouse, she eventually accepted the God of her husband and father-in-law as her God too. Similar was the case of Abraham's grandson, Jacob, Yaakov in Hebrew. After the manipulation of his father to bless him as a firstborn, a deed schemed by his mother, Jacob escaped from the wrath of his brother to his mother's family in Haran. He stayed there 20 years and married 2 cousins, Leah and Rachel. Finally, he returned to Canaan, but before leaving Haran, Rachel stole some idols of her father, who furiously pursued Jacob but did not find the idols, because Rachel was sitting over them as they were hidden under the saddle of her camel. How much was Jacob influenced by his wife's faith, we don't know. But twice on his journey, once there and once on his return, God appeared to him, introducing himself as God of Abraham and Isaac, definitely a family God, whose name was El or El Shaddai, God of the mountains. From then on, during Jacob's life, he always mentioned the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. At one of his encounters with the deity, Jacob's name was changed to Israel, but this name was used frequently only later. Sometime afterwards, Jacob and family, by then 70 persons, migrated to Egypt. According to various biblical versions, they stayed there for 400 years. Jacob's second youngest son Joseph was already in Egypt. He was actually the architect of the migration. He had attained very high position in the Egyptian kingdom, something like viceroy, but he unlikely observed the religion of his ancestors. He married the daughter of an Egyptian priest and favored economically the Egyptian priestly class, exempting them from tax. He grew up under the influence of the Egyptian priests. It is doubtful that his brothers, after the death of their father, remained monotheists. More likely they were assimilated into the Egyptian religion, which was definitely polytheistic. They maintained, however, the tribal identity and were known as a group, the sons of Israel. At one time, but long before the arrival of Jacob's family into Egypt, there was an attempt at monotheism by one of the rulers of Egypt, Amenhotep IV, who changed his name to Ahnaton. He lived in the early 14th century. He's better known for his beautiful wife, Nefertiti. He built a new capital city, Ahnaton, where he ruled a vast empire. Archaeological remnants of a huge archive of his correspondence were found in a village of Amarna in Upper Egypt. It seems to be the site of Akhenaten, his capital. He proclaimed the sun to be the only god, Otto Rand, and dismissed traditional clergy as a god. He obviously created great clerical opposition to his rule, and he died under suspicious circumstances 17 years after his accession. His son Tutankhamen, whose tomb was found and traveled all over the world, returned to the old cult of Egypt and restored the dismissed clergy. Later generation of rulers erased Akhenaten's name from the list of Egyptian pharaohs and demolished his statues wherever they could. There are a few scholars, including Sigmund Freud, who saw connection between Akhenaten and Moses, and some even identified him with Moses. Unfortunately, this speculation has no scientific basis, nor chronological possibility. Nor can Akhenaten's religion be called monotheistic, because he worshipped a celestial object and left the gods of other nations intact. So Aten was at the best a national god of Egypt at that time. Joseph and his family arrived in Egypt during the rule of foreign dynasty called Hyksos, usually understood as West Asians. It is natural that under such a dynasty, Joseph, being also a West Asian, could rise in the ruling hierarchy, and the family of Jacob, who were all West Asians, were welcomed to Egypt and settled in one of the most fertile parts of Egypt, in the eastern delta of Nile, not far from the capital of Hyksos, Avaris. This dynasty was, however, defeated and expelled in the late 13th century by new, very nationalistic rulers. And so the pharaoh who did not know Joseph rose to power. He fought against the West Asians and expelled them from Egypt. Those foreigners who were not expelled or instead insisted on staying were turned into slaves. It seems the sons of Israel were among them, but they were not the only ones. Here we need to introduce Moses, whose name is an Egyptian name, meaning son. Moses, Moses, and others. Even if you follow the Hebrew Bible, Moses was found and raised by an Egyptian princess and lived in the Pharaoh's palace. Even if we accept the fact that his real mother nursed him, according to Exodus, the major influence on him was Egyptian, which includes Egyptian language and religion. After he killed the government overseer who whipped to death a slave, probably Jewish, he had to escape Pharaoh's justice, regardless of his noble upbringing. He fled to the desert of Sinai and became part of the family of a Midianite priest, marrying one of his daughters. He worked for his father-in-law as a shepherd, and as such had many opportunities to explore Sinai and his roads to and from Egypt. The Midianites were caravaneers who traded between India and Egypt. Joseph himself was brought to Egypt by a Midianite trading group. According to biblical interpreters, Moses lived 40 years in Egypt and 40 years in Sinai. I'm not going to get involved myself in the interpretation of the biblical ages, numbers, which is public monotheism. But in any case, Moses was a grown-up man when he had this presumed encounter with God. He was not a child. According to the Bible, God appeared to Moses in a burning bush. He introduced himself as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This did not mean much to Moses, who, like his compatriots, lost the memory of his ancestors God. He asked for God's name so that he could introduce him to the sons of Israel, which was supposed to be his mission. God told him his name was Yahweh, Yehovah in Hebrew. The meaning of Yahweh is the combination of the past tense, present tense, and future tense of the verb to be. In other words, God introduced himself as being eternal, timeless. The mission of Moses was to liberate the sons of Israel from slavery in Egypt, which he undertook reluctantly, and only when God made his brother Aaron his deputy. Aaron was an Egyptian priest. Moses was of royal lineage, and this combination gave him credibility and access to Pharaoh's palace. It was another Pharaoh now, and not the one who condemned Moses, probably a stepbrother of Moses. Moses' first approach was to the sons of Israel, but it was unsuccessful. Far from remembering the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they became Egyptian polytheists. Still they carried the memory of their descent from the various tribes. The God that Moses met became now the God of the sons of Israel. He fought the Egyptian gods with his 10 plagues and came out victorious. This proved himself as the strongest, but not necessarily the single God. Moses, in the name of this God, led the Israelites and many other slaves out of Egypt into the desert of Sinai, which, with the aim to reach the land of Canaan occupied. 3 days after crossing the Red Sea, not Red Sea, the Israelites and the other slaves who joined them in their escape camped under Mount Sinai. There they witnessed the giving of 10 commandments, which are the elementary laws of correct human behavior. The question that I'm raising is why, if God is the God of all the people, were the basic laws given only to the ex-slaves in a remote corner of the earth, could have done it publicly, interviewed by some kind of a CBS or the answer is the biblical interpreters give is that the Israelites were chosen by God to spread the knowledge of monotheism. To me, it is unsatisfactory. Can monotheism sustain the idea of special treatment of one nation over another? Did God neglect all the nations of the world in the east and west by singling out one group of ex-slaves to spread the message of the universal God? Nor was it a successful choice. Only 2 of the thousands of ex-slaves liberated from Egypt made it into the land of Canaan. The rest died in the desert. Was the message of Sinai transmitted faithfully and kept by the young generation? Apparently not, because after conquering Canaan, the Israelites constantly reverted to the worship of the idols and violated 10 commandments, including such famous kings as David and Solomon. It were the prophets of Israel and Judah that carried the message of one universal God, whose requirements were not necessarily ritual, but ethical and moral. They spoke of one God of all the people of the world, but they also spoke of the punishment the people of Israel, the presumed chosen people, will receive if they do not follow the way of life their God prescribed. And indeed, the chosen people underwent terrible catastrophes, starting the destruction of their temple and responsible from the land, which were followed in history by cruel persecutions, expulsion, and mass murders. One wonders what the chosen is actually meant. Chosen for what? In the first century of the Common Era, called after him AD, Anno Dei, a new prophet arose in Judea, which was then under Roman rule. His name was Jesus. He was teaching his message to Jews, along with 12 apostles, all Jewish. The sources for his life and teaching are included in the New Testament, which consists of 27 books. 4 of these books are Gospels, describing the life and teaching of Jesus. The rest are letters and epistles, mainly by Paul of Tarsus, but also other apostles, all the helpers. The Gospels were written at least 30 years after the death of Jesus, and neither of the writers had personally acquaintance with him. 2 of the Gospels relate that Jesus was of divine origin, engendered by God, but born by a Jewish Virgin Mary. All 4 Gospels describe his death by crucifixion and later resurrection. The teaching of Jesus was similar to the teaching of the prophets, but even more radical in the requirements of social justice. One of the Gospels, Matthew, quotes Jesus, 1:18, as saying that he did not come to abolish the law of the teachings of the prophets, but he came to fulfill them in a more righteous way. Jesus preached for only 3 years, from about the age of 27 to 30, and we know very little about his early life. Recently, there were found additional documents about the life of Jesus in an ancient monastery near Nag Hammadi in Upper Egypt. These documents also describe the ministry of Jesus and contain some very early epistles that were not included in the New Testament. There were apparently Christian sects like the Ebionites and Marcions that were considered heretic by the early leaders of Orthodox Christianity, but had many followers. The final battle among the various Christian denominations was fought in 325 in the Council of Nicaea, after the conversion of the Roman Emperor Constantine, also called Great, and the argument centered on the issue of divinity of Jesus. One very strong segment of bishops led by Arian of Alexandria claimed that Jesus was human and was not of divine essence. Others led by Bishop Anastasius claimed that Jesus was fully divine even when he descended on earth through a miraculous birth as a man, and was of the same essence as God the Father. That was a long discussion, but the emperor cut it short and sided with Anastasius. Upon his insistence, a creed was approved that proclaimed God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, as 3 but 1, by which the pure monotheism propagated by Jesus was compromised. If there are 3, how can be 1? I know it's not that simple, because there are all kinds of explanations of the Trinity that are spiritual in a sense, but in a technical, logical way, 1 is 1 and 3 are 3. Here we cannot ignore the role of Paul of Tarsus. Like all the apostles, he was Jewish by birth and schooled by distinguished rabbis. He persecuted Christians in his early years, until one day, on his way to Damascus, he had a vision of Jesus, who asked him, why is he persecuting me instead of giving him support? It occurred to Paul that Judaism, in incorporating Jesus and attaining salvation through belief in him, can be used in conversion of many Romans, who did not take any more their polytheistic belief as satisfactory. To achieve this goal, he decided to abandon Jewish law, like circumcision, observance of Shabbat, eating kosher food, which would become an obstacle to the conversion of Gentiles. This separation of Christianity from Judaism created tension between him and the surviving apostles led by James, the brother of Jesus, and eventually led to open animosity. When Christianity became eventually the official religion of the Roman Empire, it led to burning of synagogues and serious discrimination against Jews. So the common source of the 2 religions was unheeded, and the divinity of Jesus, now recognized as Christ, the Messiah, became the main message of Christianity. Paul certainly thought that he's introducing monotheism available to the whole world. What? Christianity really monotheistic? I have already mentioned the Trinity as incompatible with monotheism. But there was another issue that interfered with this definition. At the point where Christians attained a numerical superiority, they started to propagate their view by persecuting and forcibly converting other people into their faith. South America, where the conquerors were accompanied by priests and monks who forced the native people to accept Christianity. This was done by force, torture, and murder. As far as monotheism is a religious view of personal conviction and acceptance, these acts of violence were totally unacceptable and totally unpleasing to God of the entire humanity. This leaves Islam as the last monotheistic religion in the Western world. The Eastern world has not produced any religion that can be classified as monotheistic according to our criteria. Not Brahmanism, although Brahman is the chief god, but there were so many others. So we are talking about Islam now. The basic premise of Islam, as the faith became known, is submission to the only God, Allah, and His ordinances. Those were revealed to Muhammad at different times and are called ayat, the revelation. Muhammad did not know how to read and write, so his revelations were recited, or rather sang orally. Later, after his death, they were written down, we are still not sure by whom, 114 chapters, surahs, in a book called Quran, which became the Muslims' holy book. Muhammad's monotheism was impeccable. It consisted of belief in the oneness of God, the original creator of heavens and earth, who is the absolute and perfect master over the universe. Islam taught that no one shares in his dominion. None can resist his decree. He is the one who created each of us from a single cell and made us into what we are. He is the one who created over 100 billion galaxies, and every electron, neutron, and quark contained within them. And I am quoting an Islamic text, keeping all that exists and all the laws of nature in perfect measure. Not a leaf falls from a tree without his permission. Everything is kept in a precise record. In Muhammad's view, Allah the God was universal, but in practical terms, he had a narrower goal, mainly to unite all the previously pagan Arab tribes of the Arabian Peninsula who fought against each other and believed in a multiplicity of gods into one nation, Ummah, under Islam. In 632, when he died, at an early age of 62, this enormous task was accomplished. But Muhammad never left Arabia. Muhammad never went to convert other people. Initially, Muhammad was tolerant toward Jews and Christians, whom he saw as his monotheistic predecessors, and whom he called Ahl al-Dima, people of the book. He provided them with residential rights and rights to worship, but always inferior to the Muslims. They were charged to a head price for their residence and required to show humility and submission to true believers, the Muslims. Actually, in Medina, where Muhammad established an ultimate residence, there lived since times immemorial 3 Jewish tribes, whom he considered close allies and eventual candidates for conversion into Islam. As it turned out, Jewish tribes refused to convert and eventually joined forces with his enemies. This resulted in a cruel expulsion of one and a total annihilation of the other 2 tribes. In later revelation, Muhammad called on the annihilation of the Jews, which was the end of his history of toleration. His congregants all of Arabia were formerly praying facing Jerusalem, the original site of monotheism, and in his view, the original abode of Allah, were later required to face in their prayers towards Mecca, the holy city of Arabia. Islam changed radically after the death of his founder. The 4 followers of Muhammad, known as the Khalifas, began to expand the borders of Islam by force. 100 years after the death of his founder, Muslims conquered half of the known world, from Spain in the west to India in the east. These conquests were done by an ever-increasing military force, and the conquered ones were forced to accept Islam. Those who refused were executed or enslaved. The Muslim Caliphate survived in the form of Otto Rand Empire through World War I. In recent years, an Islamic movement arose that seeks to renovate the Caliphate and eventually expand it by sheer force into the entire world. It's called ISIS. This is not the mainstream Islam, but still a menace to all people. unless the majority of Muslims unite and struggle against the radicals, Islam cannot be considered a benevolent monotheism. So the question arises, is there a pure, universal, and peaceful monotheism? It seems to me that won't appear until biblical quotation appearing in both the Old and New Testament will be amplified and fulfilled. Hear, O Israel, and Jesus of Nazareth and his followers, and Muhammad the son of Ibrahim and his followers, and Brahman and his followers, and Gautama Buddha and his followers. The Almighties are God. God is one. Now what I'm really saying is that there is no monotheistic religion if you judge it according to the criteria that I set up. But that doesn't mean there is no monotheism. Monotheism is in every person's heart. If our relationship with the Almighty is personal and not through institution, and it's accompanied by love of people, by being aware of the struggle of the poor and the orphan and the widow, and we are helping them. In that case, we are monotheistic. But I am sure that the organized religions have not achieved that, because basically they start to fight against each other to show that each one is better than the other. And that is not God's mission. God's mission was love in every religion, and it was perverted by people who became, some of them rich, some of them famous, some of them powerful, through being leaders of a religion. So I say that all religions are organizations that are really interested in self-preservation and not so much in promoting God's love. God's love is in our hearts, and I think that each one of us can be monotheistic in his heart. But I think by affiliation with a religious institution, we kind of lose the view of the wishes of God, and we become kind of part of a institution that has presidents and vice presidents and I don't know, and monetary interests and so on. And there's infighting and there's outfighting and so on. So I would say that religion is not the way to God, but our heart is. And that is the mission, that is the message that I would like to pass to people.
Well, we have some time for your questions. And just raise your hand, somebody will bring you the mic. Yes, somebody stand and say very loudly and clearly. You have
Loudly and clearly.
That's good. Good. Loudly and clearly.
Thank you.
What about Hagar? What about Ishmael? Por favor.
What about Hagar and Ishmael?
Well, you know, when we are coming back to the Bible, we are finding all kinds of injustices there. And one of them was the expulsion of Hagar and Ishmael. It cannot be justified in any form and way, because saying that God ordered Abraham to do it, actually that supported Sarah in doing it, it's really converting God into a political entity. God was not involved in human life in such a way. That's my opinion. But anyhow, the Bible, when you took it very literally, is not always a religious book. It's a historical book and a mythological book, and there's all kinds of stories that we may morally not agree with them.
All right, the next one.
Thank you, sir. Why would God figures tend to be male, masculine?
Why are God
by male. I don't think there was a female, could have been a female goddess before the male, but in periods very, very ancient, and we don't have memory of that. But all throughout the Middle Ages, and all throughout the religions, particularly the Christian religion, where Paul came very much against, was preaching very much against women's role in the church. I think we are considering God as the one who leads the world, and that can be only male, but it's not necessarily true. I don't think
So, on to the next question. Here we are on the front row.
Before the question, a little anecdote. Chief Rabbi of Israel, a while ago, dies. He goes to heaven, and because he's the chief rabbi, he gets audience with God. So the chief rabbi says, God, I'm representing the Jewish people here on earth. And God says, that's nice. Well, I have a question to ask of you, so go ahead. Are we really the chosen people? And God said, why yes, you are. Well, in that case, as the representative of your chosen people on earth, I should ask you a favor. Go ahead. Would you mind choosing somebody else? This business of God being female or male, in fact, as you know, Otto, that in the Old Testament, God, in the Hebrew Bible, God is referred to in both genders. And when it's dealing with military type stuff, of which there's no lack of in the Old Testament, God is referred to as a man. And when it comes to the softer side of God, he's referred to as a woman. So I would suggest that God is hermaphroditic. The other question I have is, do you think, after God created woman, do you think, and she then created man, did she feel she made a mistake?
I don't think that it needs answer.
I've got a question back here. I didn't hear you mention the Baha'i faith at all, which is a very interesting perspective on theism and the form of progressive manifestation, where each of the prophets over the many millennia comes back after the previous manifestation has been so messed up by the culture after about 1,000 years that it's time for a new one. And also the Baha'i faith does not believe that these manifestations are of God specifically. They're perfect mirrors of the love of God, and God himself is reflected, but not part of what they are as a human being. So I'm wondering if you could comment on that and whether you think that has a role to play in your view of monotheism.
Well, I think that the Baha'i religion is a very high-level religion, and it recognizes God not only as concerned with people, but also with animals and with flowers and with plants and so on. I believe that during the history, it became a political danger to become Baha'is, and they were expelled by other religions, by the Islamic religion, from Persia, Iran, to other places. But I think the ideas in the Baha'i religions are very positive, and they will show God as a very universal God. But it's not enough of a religion, not in the size or in its extension, that I could mention it. By the same token, you know, you can say that Brahmanism, not Brahmanism, Buddhism is a very positive religion, but not a religion at all, because it doesn't believe in God. It believes in improvement of human being. And that is, of course, we all agree with that we need to improve ourselves. And I believe very strongly that only by improving ourselves we become religious people. So,
In order to answer the question about God being male. If you recall in the Bible, it is written that God created man to his own image. And before he created man, then we assumed that he was God as a man. The second question is, you mentioned that Abraham at 99 years old and Sarah at 100 years old gave birth. According to the study done by all these eminent people and the rabbis all over the world, the biblical year was only 6 months, which means that at 99 years old he was only 45 years old or 50 years old.
Well, I did mention, Gabi, that the dates and ages of the Bible are a different story. We need to talk about differently. But there are so many theories about it. You know, there are the theory that in ancient times you had to divide the age in 10 in order to get the real age, like of Noah and of his predecessors. In the more historical period of Abraham, Isaac, and so on, in 2. So instead of Abraham being 100 years old, he was 50 years old. Instead of Sarah being 90 years old, she was 45 years old, which is also late for having a child, but it's still possible.
First off, I want to thank you so much, because as always, you make such a difference. I'd like to talk about the fact that we need our leaders in all of our different religions to follow the teachings that they actually are supposed to. And even though I'm Jewish, I also have tremendous admiration for the Pope right now, who is actually making every effort to follow the teachings of Jesus as they were intended to be. And I also have to remember that Jesus died as a Jew. But the main thing is that every one of our religious groups, whether it be our rabbis or our Islam people, if they would all do the same thing and start paying attention to working together, this would be quite a different world. It's not going to happen just because people have read a Bible or anything else.
Okay, way in the back.
So let me just answer and tell you that Alan, you are right, basically. A lot of teaching of Jesus was Jewish. He himself was Jewish. But later on, there was a separation between Judaism and Christianity. And Judaism became, in the eyes of the later Christians, an enemy and not the source of their religion. The fact is that Judaism is the source of Christianity. It's a fact.
Could I come forward a couple of thousand years? You know, there's been hundreds of thousands of new refugees into Europe. And I'm wondering how you believe these Christians and alternative religious people will accommodate this huge influx of a different culture, religion.
Well, I think that some nations are more enlightened than others. And in some places they accept and receive them. But I also believe that there is some danger in that, because the movement dimension as ISIS is penetrating and invading among the refugees, and is a danger to this country. So you have to be careful. You have to be merciful to people, but you have to be careful whom you accept.
Thank you for your last paragraph at the end of your talk. That kind of summed it all up, that the way religion describes God is intellectual. And what you said after studying probably many, many years is that God is an experience, and all religions are pointers to that one divinity. And we're very blessed to be living in an age where we can have a direct experience of God regardless of religion. Because all religions at the end are pointers. And now the vessel, religion mistakes the vessel with the message. So thank you for your last paragraph, and the first part of your talk was very informative. But
disagree with you, Otto, that I believe that while the roots of Christianity can be found to some extent in Judaism, in fact the religion is Pauline.
That's right. No.
Do you agree?
But Paul was also Jewish.
No, he converted. Okay, let me tell you how he got the Ten Commandments, and this is a true story. Now, this is a true story. One day, God in heaven was bored. So what am I going to do today? He says, I'm going to choose a people. So he looks around. By the way, in this true story, you have to ignore chronology, okay? All right. He looks around, he sees the Egyptians, he calls down to Pharaoh. Hey, Pharaoh, who's that? This is God. Hey, cool. What can I do for you? You want to be my chosen people? I guess. What do you got to do? You'll have to choose a commandment. You'll have to accept a commandment. A commandment? What's it going to be? Thou shalt not kill. Pharaoh says, hey God, come on. That's our sport. There's no TV, there's no internet, there's nothing yet. No, go choose someone else. So he looks around and he sees Caesar. Remember, we're ignoring chronology. Caesar, God, alone. You want to be my chosen people? Yeah, why not? What do you got to do? Well, you're going to have to receive a commandment. What? Thou shalt not commit adultery. And Caesar says, God, this is wrong, No, you go choose somebody else. He looks around, he sees Moses. Moses, you want to be my chosen people? Yeah, why not? What do you got to do? Well, you'll have to receive a commandment. Receive a commandment, is it? How much is it going to cost? God says, cost? Nothing, it's free. And Moses says, if it's free, we'll take 10.